Good morning, everybody. We have a mixed trade in the grain markets here early on Thursday morning. It is 6:30 a.m. Central Time. December corn futures up 1 3/4 at 5.35 1/4. November soybeans up 3 3/4 at 12.98 1/4. December Chicago wheat down 3 1/4 at 7.09. December Kansas City wheat down 3 1/4 at 7.12 3/4. December spring wheat down 3 cents at 9.01 3/4. If you guys are listening on the podcast, as always, appreciate it. Leave me a rating or a review if you have not already. That would be much appreciated. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the like button. My goal is to get to 5,000 subscribers. I think we can do it, so certainly help me out there. If you need some additional assistance from me, go to my website. It is www.standardgrain.com. Go to that website, click on Grain Marketing Plan here in the upper right-hand corner for $49 a month. I talk about it every day. I've got an email that I send out to my customers every business day at 6:30 a.m. Central. It includes every overnight headline that you need to be aware of, all sorts of charts, weather maps, weather info. My subscriber-only videos are included in that email. Yesterday, I did one that was very popular that you might be interested in. I talked about the corn market and harvest lows. There has been some discussion regarding harvest lows in the corn market. Was that a harvest low last Friday? I tried to kind of go back historically and see if there's any precedent for a September 10th harvest low, which was the date last Friday. I talked about this in a lot of detail. So if you're interested in stuff like that, more specific items, stuff related to grain marketing, I do videos on all of it every day of the week. Certainly check out that subscription service, guys. In the headlines here this morning, China canceled some soybean purchases yesterday, and this was kind of contrary to what I told you yesterday morning. Yesterday morning, I told you there were rumors suggesting that China would book some soybean cargoes out of the PNW, and while that is still possible, USDA reported two different cancellations yesterday. Chinese buyers canceled 132,000 metric tons of U.S. beans, and an unknown destination, probably China, canceled an additional 196,000. That's a total of 328,000 metric tons canceled, or about 12 million bushels. The assumption here, guys, is that the cargoes were probably just switched to Brazil. Sources indicating that China booked 4 to 6 cargoes, a very similar amount of Brazilian soybeans for October-November shipment this week. That's unusual for Brazil, or for China rather, to buy Brazilian beans during that time frame. This is typically the big U.S. export window here, but we have big issues at the Gulf, and I think that that's the reason. Reuters quoted one U.S. soybean exporter in an article. He said this: "There are no offers at the Gulf for October. The outages have pushed everything back, and nobody wants to sell October and add to their pain." So I think that these cancellations very much have to do with the Gulf issues. You could still very well see some Chinese business out of the PNW here, but China's got needs to fill during that October window in particular, and with these outages at the Gulf, it just there's some issues there. November soybean crush was above expectations. Members of the National Oilseed Processors Association crushed 158.8 million bushels of beans in August, well above the average trade guess near 154. That was a 3-month high in the soybean crush. First time we've been above expectations in a long time. That print was 2.4% above July, still down 3.8% from August of last year. Prior to this report, again, things have been bad. This is a step in the right direction. I talk about this, guys, because soybean crush here domestically accounts for basically half of all demand for soybeans grown in this country. USDA projects that domestic crush will account for 49.6% of all demand for U.S. grown soybeans this year. Weekly ethanol production improved just marginally, 937,000 barrels per day. That was up 1.5% on the week, up only like 1% versus last year. So we're still like sitting around, COVID type levels, down almost 7% versus the same week in 2019. Ethanol stocks were down for a 7th consecutive week, so we are using ethanol at a faster clip than we're producing it here. U.S. ethanol production, at least in my view, will accelerate fairly rapidly here in the coming weeks as more corn becomes available, as interior corn basis essentially collapses, cheaper cash corn is available. That's what probably should happen. Cooler weather is expected in the northern plains and western corn belt late next week, say Saturday or so. I've got a map I can show you here. There could be a little bit of frost in some of these areas of North Dakota, Minnesota, maybe eastern South Dakota, maybe northern Iowa. Now, this is not cause for concern. Even this is the GFS. The map I'm showing you here, if you're watching, this is the GFS map for the projected low temperature on September 25th. And even with this map, you're not into freezing territory. You're pretty close in some of these areas. Even if this does turn into a frost type scenario, it would not be abnormal. This is a crappy map that I pulled up of average frost dates. But I mean, in the north here, I think the average date for like Fargo, North Dakota in particular, is September 28th or 29th. So you wouldn't be that far off. And then you go to northern Iowa, it's first few days of October for most of those places. So this would not be totally abnormal if this does turn into a frost situation. It would not be totally abnormal. So not anything that I think is going to be a big driver of prices or anything like that. Just something to be aware of in regard to weather. We do have a export sales report this morning from USDA. It'll be out at 7:30 a.m. Central. Corn sales expected to be 500,000 up to 1 million. Soybeans 600 up to 1.4. Wheat sales 300 to 700 expected. That report will be out at 7:30. Cattle market was mixed yesterday. We had that good rally on what would have been Tuesday, kind of set back a little bit yesterday, more so of a setback in the feeder cattle. We'll see if we can stabilize here today. I don't know that there was a ton of cash cattle traded yet this week. 123 to 126, just kind of scattered. In the outside markets here this morning, the U.S. dollar is marginally higher. The S&P is down about 8 points. The Dow's down 30. Bonds off a little bit. Gold's down $20. Silver down sharply as well. Crude oil is down 12 cents in the November WTI at 72.21. Everybody have a wonderful day today. I will talk to you guys same time tomorrow.